talk about the landscape of the
Thank you, Professor Michael, for your very kind introduction. So I'm Chim from the University of Hong Kong. So first of all, what's multiple myeloma? So myeloma arises from the classic proliferation of plasma cells characterized by the presence of molecular chemotherapy in the serum and urine. And associated with multiple deposition of plasma cells inside the bone marrow, and then it's associated with also formation pathological fractures, spontaneous hypercalcemia, and sometimes are summarized in the acronym FRAP. So C stands for hypercalcemia, R for renal impairment, A for anemia, B for bone disease. So the pathogenesis of disease actually is possibly to we understand that the mass of plasma cells arises from immortalization of the post-chamber center B cell. And so after immortalization, home to the bone marrow, bind to the stroma, and cytokine was depleted, and it bind to common receptor of the plasma cells inside the bone marrow and activate a number of signaling pathway that confer survival and proliferation advantage to the plasma cells. In addition, there is actually adhesion-mediated drug resistance, and also the differentiation also passes inhibited by the secretion of DKK1, and also the randomized from the MSC stroma. You also activate proliferation of the osteoclast, and hence the balance the balance skews towards osteolytic conditions. And over the years, a number of investigation has been put in place, including the very old one with the database genetics, and subsequently with FISH and gene expression profiling, we have this PC classification of myeloma, and the unified theme is actually our definition of the subcyclics in myeloma in all cases, whatever the genetic makeup. And then recently we have the methylation, the genome-wide investigation, including methylation array, and also recently next generation sequencing that actually shows that. So this is a summary of the three major cohorts of exome sequencing in myeloma. So they're almost comprising the 700 cases of patients with newly diagnosed myeloma. So what you see is that actually there are only some 10 plus recurring mutations in the myeloma. It's not a lot. There's only 10 plus recurring mutations. And if you look at data, even for the most common or most frequently mutated genes like KRAS and NRAS in myeloma, it only accounts for some 20% of the cases. And therefore, in myeloma, unlike the chronic myeloid leukemia, we don't have a single druggable genetic alteration like the B-cell ABLs in the case of CML. So we don't have a single druggable genetic alteration. Moreover, actually there is tremendous interpatient genetic heterogeneity, so that's why we're going to use a single target to treat myeloma. So what is the advances in multiple myeloma in the last 2 decades? First of all, is of course the advent of the stem cell transplant. And then subsequently, we have all these novel agents, including some inhibitors, that's sort of like in short, it's a PI, so with different PIs now, and also IMiD, that's an immunomodulatory agent. And also we have monoclonal antibody that targets CD38 or STAT7 that are densely expressed on myeloma cells. And so, first of all, why is there? Why does a proteasome inhibitor is useful? So, first of all, proteasome is a very important cellular organelle for the survival of myeloma for 2 reasons. One is that NF-κB is the cellular pathway that confers survival to the myeloma cells. It's actually activated and constitutive that activated in myeloma, and it's actually due to the function of proteasome to actually degrade ICTC that actually inhibit the NF-κB to translocate the nucleus. So therefore, proteasome is important for the activation of NF-κB in myeloma cells. Moreover, you can understand that in myeloma plasma cells, they produce a lot of immunoglobulin protein, and actually some of them are misfolded. And this low of misfolded protein actually presents an ER stress, endoplasmic reticulum stress to the cell. And hence, if this is not properly handled with, the cell will go into apoptosis. And in this connection, proteasome is also very important because it's important for the degradation, catabolism of all this misfolded protein, and hence mitigate the ER stress in the myeloma cells, and hence protect the cells from apoptosis. And you can imagine that with the use of proteasome inhibitor, then it will actually inhibit, first of all, it will abolish the NF-κB signaling pathway. Also, it will eliminate the protection of the myeloma plasma cells from apoptosis by this ER stress, also inherent with the spore protein load. And so therefore, this is a table summarizes the different proteasome inhibitors are now in the market. So we have the first generation one is a bortezomib, and also now we have carfilzomib and also isarcimib. And you see that they are of different chemistry, and then importantly, despite the different chemistry, all of them actually inhibit. This is a cross-sectional view of the proteasome. So there are 7 subunits. You can see number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are beta 5 subunits important because they process the chymotryptic activity. And all of this proteasome inhibitor, whatever the chemistry that we inhibit, the beta 5 subunit that is like chymotryptic activity. And some of them are preferential, some are oral, some are reversible inhibitors, and some are irreversible inhibitors. And these are the second generation proteasome inhibitor, carfilzomib and isarcimib. And then what about IMiD? IMiD is another important drug that is very useful in myeloma. So immunotherapy agents found thalidomide, lenalidomide, pomalidomide. So why is it useful? So first of all, we know that myeloma plasma cells, in terms of biology, they are addicted to c-MET. And so one of the upstream transcription factor is that the IRF4, interferon regulatory factor 4. Okay, so we understand that in the case of myeloma, IRF4 is upregulated, and hence it also leads to upregulation of c-MET. And so in the case of mechanism of action IMiD, so for example, is IMiD including whether it be it thalidomide, lenalidomide, or pomalidomide. So basically, the mechanism of action is that it binds the cellular of the E3 ubiquitin ligase that will actually lead to degradation of the ecterol, the same thing for transcription factor, and that will lead to downregulation of IRF4 and hence downregulation of c-MET. Okay, so with that, the cell goes into apoptosis. And so now with a new case of transplant allergic myeloma, so the first thing to do is actually the diagnostic profile, which will include serum and urine plasma protein electrophoresis. And they will do pulmonary to confirm the plasmacytosis and the imaging to confirm the pulmonary lesions and lipid lesions. And then we'll induce a patient with usually is a based reaction, so usually a triplet. So in Hong Kong we use VTT, maybe in the US and Europe we use VRD for a number of cycles, usually 4 to 6 cycles of followed by transplant and plus or minus consolidation and then IMiD maintenance. So sometimes we do MRD assessment as well as a research project. So this is the natural history of myeloma. Despite a lot of advances, myeloma remains an incurable disease. So you see that at the time of diagnosis, the paraprotein load is very high, and with induction, it goes down to very low level or even to complete remission. But after a very short period of time, the disease still progresses, and so therefore the disease will go on a relapse and the weakening pattern until the patient expires of the disease. So this is a PSF1, the progression-free survival. This is our data in Hong Kong. We have a collaboration from a lot of hospitals from different hospitals in Hong Kong, including ours. So for 380 patients with newly diagnosed myeloma. So our progression-free survival is somewhere in the range of 3 to 4 years. And also the overall survival is very much improved, and actually now is something like 10 years now. So, but despite you look at the progression-free survival, you can understand that despite there is a lot of advance, very much improved in the survival, and yet majority of the patients will eventually require salvage therapy at the time of symptomatic relapse. And so at the time of relapse, what are the factors that impact your choice regimen? So I believe that first of all is the goal of the salvage. We really want to render another deep remission, complete remission, and prolonged survival in relatively young patient after relapse. Or actually is something about the disease, so actually is early late relapse, is an indolent biochemical relapse, or actually sometimes the patient may present with aggressive relapses with extramedullary disease. And also is the factors related inherent with the patient, the age of the patient, performance status, and whether the patient is competent in failure. And then, so what drugs do you want to use? So it depends on the prior treatment. So whether the patient is refractory to the last treatment, the patient has got the residual toxicity due to prior treatment, like Velcade, peripheral neuropathy associated with Velcade or thalidomide. And then also, are you really somebody who's really scientific and you require evidence-based data to guide your treatment? So in that connection, do you require randomized control trial data, or you just happy with phase 2 data? And then whether you want, the next question is that do you want to use a triplet for your reinduction, or do you want to use a doublet? So in the case of triplet, then it is expensive triplet to combine a next generation PI with a third generation IMiD and that, or there are also inexpensive triplet. And then depends on the prior use of proteasome inhibitor IMiD that can be used the next generation of these drugs on the same class, or do you want to use an entirely different class of drugs? So all these factors actually impact the choice of the next generation. So if you use that you are a very scientific person, you want evidence data to guide your treatment. So to review all this data, so majority of these analyses are usually 3 drugs versus 2 drugs. So for example, in S5, the carfilzomib RD versus RD, RD stands for Inalidimide Index, and the TOURMALINE-MMI ones are isartanate RD versus RD. And we also have RCT using Daratumumab as an intervention. So we have a CASTOR study study that I will go into subsequently. And the other thing too is Elo-RD versus RD. And then we have, normally we don't have a head-to-head comparison. You can imagine from the pharma company, they don't usually conduct head-to-head comparison, but we do have one, okay? That's Endeavor, that's carfilzomib versus the And then we have also derivative of all these randomized control trials. For example, we have POLLUX that is a DRD, the information on this DRD, and now we have Daratumumab. And then we have Aspire, we have a PRD, and now we have carfilzomib for all refractory patients. And then we also have very important phase 2 data for refractory myeloma, like the series and Gen 501 that demonstrate the single agent activity of Daratumumab for refractory myeloma, and also single agent active for Venetoclax, and also Chimeric for refractory myeloma. So at this point, I would like to define what is an early and advanced relapse. Because we talk about early and advanced relapse very much, but I think this, to me, is not necessarily a function of time. Early relapse, actually, I believe it should be defined by actually the status of chemosensitivity instead of time of relapse. So, for example, one will encounter a patient with early relapse, which may be actually quite late. For example, in the relapse, the first relapse may occur more than 5 years after the initial response. Whereas, by contrast, you may see a patient with advanced relapse that might occur quite early. For example, you see patients might relapse within 12 months of autologous stem cell transplantation. That are usually refractory and usually fatal outcome. And so this is a table to summarize the reason randomized control trials in relapsed myeloma, which is an early relapse. So we have the CASTOR, which is the Dara-VD versus VD, POLLUX, Dara-RD versus RD, Aspire, PRD versus RD, and TOURMALINE-MMI RD versus RD. And the other one too is Elo-RD versus RD. So you see that majority, apart from this Endeavor, which is a head-to-head comparison, so majority is the 3 drugs versus 2 drugs. And you see that they are actually in the status of early relapse in the way that the number of lines is only 1 to 2. And then in the intervention arm, actually all of them, all the patients, all these trials, patients randomized to receive the intervention arm, achieve a very high response rate, especially in the way of deep response lines with GPR or CR. And that translates into, of course, a superior progression-free survival in patients randomized to receive the intervention arm. And some of them actually show overall survival benefit as well. So I'm going to go into this study in deeper detail now. So first of all, it's the S5 study, okay, that was published in New England Journal 2014. So basically, relapsed myeloma patients were randomized to receive carfilzomib versus the backbone of RD. So in this particular instance, first of all, the dose of carfilzomib is 27 milligrams per square in this study, and then only 18 cycles of carfilzomib were used for induction in this study. And then after the 18 cycles of carfilzomib, then the patient will receive a maintenance RD in both arms until disease progression. So with that, you can see that the progression-free survival is very much superior in the intervention arm. That's 27 versus 17 months. And recently they translated the overall survival. And the other study is TOURMALINE-MMI that actually randomized relapsed myeloma patients to SARS-CoV versus placebo RRD. The reason they use placebo is that SARS is an oral agent, so that's why they use placebo as a control. So in this instance, again, patients who were in the intervention are superior progression-free survival. And we move on to monoclonal antibodies. So the first one in this one is actually the Daratumumab. So Daratumumab is a monoclonal antibody, monoclonal antibody that actually targets which is an antigen molecule that is expressed on the myeloma cells and also healthy, normal NK cells. So the mechanism of action is that one is antibody binding to the stem cell of myeloma cells. It does nothing. It just sits there. There is no single agent activity at all. But when the Elo binds to the upset on the NK cells in the same patients, that will activate NK cells, and the activate NK cells will separate. And because this is FC receptor, we will recognize the FC bound to the myeloma cells. And hence, the NK cell will discharge its granules. I'm sure you know the content of the granule, which comprises of heparin, granzyme B, and TRK1, and these granules will actually go to the myeloma plasma cells in the neighborhood and lead to some toxicity. So this is what antibody-dependent cellular toxicity. And therefore, we have the Elo-RD study that actually randomized relapsed patients to receive either RD versus RD, and you see that the 1/3 of the patient is refractory to the last treatment, and actually 20% of the patients are active or passing resistant. And so with that, you see that first of all, the response rate is 80% of the patients respond, and a lot of them, more than 1/3 of the patients achieve a very good response in the way of VGPR. And obviously, that translated into superior progression-free survival in patients receiving Elo-RD. And also recently, it was shown that the study is still offers survival in patients receiving Elo-RD compared with RD. And now we have another monoclonal antibody that targets CD38. So this is Daratumumab. And Daratumumab has got a wide array of mechanisms of action. First of all, upon binding to CD38 expressed on the myeloma cells, inducing apoptosis directly. However, it also has the FC-mediated cytotoxicity, including the ADCC and many other ability before. But it also induces a complement-dependent cytotoxicity as well as an antibody-dependent cellular phagocytosis by macrophage. So these are all FC-related cytotoxicity. Importantly, interestingly, it also divides the immunomodulation and immunosuppressive microenvironment. So the reason being that CD38 is not only expressed on the myeloma cell, but it's also expressed on the immunosuppressive cells inside the microenvironment, including Treg, Treg, also MDSC, that's mono-derived suppressive cells. And as you can imagine, that the Daratumumab, upon binding to these immunosuppressive cells, you actually eliminate these immunosuppressive cells inside the microenvironment, and that will unleash the myeloma-specific T cell to further contribute to cytotoxicity of the myeloma cells inside the microenvironment. And so with that, we have two important randomized control studies. The first one is POLLUX. So the study relapsed myeloma patients were randomized to receive Daratumumab RD versus RD. So you can see that first of all, patients who receive the intervention arm is got a high response rate of 90%, and actually importantly, majority of these patients achieve a complete remission. Okay, so obviously they translate into a superior progression-free survival in patients receiving RD. And also another study is that the use of Daratumumab in addition to Refractory versus Refractory. So in this study, so first of all, after induction of 8 cycles of induction, interestingly, in the intervention arm, that's Daratumumab, the patient will continue to receive Daratumumab maintenance, until disease progression. However, in the control arm, there's no treatment after the 8 cycles of induction. And with that, you can see that again, the patients got this patients got a high response rate, and many of them achieve the VGPR. VGPR means more than 90% reduction in the therapeutic level. And again, that translated into a superior progression-free survival in the intervention arm. So now we have all this RCT. The question to ask is actually, what do you make out of this RCT data on a person inhibitor as far as MM1, POLLUX, and CASTOR, etc. So the question is, which drug will you use for the next patient with the relapse myeloma that you are going to see in the future? So this is actually a table devised to summarize this RCT, including S5 MM1 aspect of thank you. So basically, what I want to draw your attention to, first of all, obviously we are interested in the progression-free survival in the intervention arm. So they are actually very low. So I believe that you can't judge just based on the median progression-free survival. So the next thing to look at is actually in Therapeutic RCT that actually utilizes something. So in the S5 studies, ARD versus RD, and common MMOs, RD versus RD. So in these two studies, utilizing a person inhibitor, you see that they're quite different. And note that in common MM1, bortezomib resistance is a person inhibitor. So bortezomib resistant patients really treated on the study, whereas in the S5 study, some patients with a bortezomib resistant were actually allowed to enroll into the study. And also, you look at the number of cycles that of a person inhibitor that's been used in the intervention arm. So you see that in the CASTOR study, there are only 8 cycles of induction, and as part of the 18 cycle induction. But in common MM1, a SARS will be used definitely until disease progression. So there's quite a lot of heterogeneity. And also, as I alluded to earlier in the CASTOR study, interestingly, in the intervention arm, Daratumumab can be used every 4 weeks thereafter until disease progression in the intervention arm. However, in the control arm, actually, there's no treatment after the 8 cycles of induction. So, the question is, given that there are so much heterogeneity, could we compare data from these RCTs? I think we can hardly. But I think we can look at what are the common amongst these RCTs. Okay, so first of all, RD has been used as a control in 4 RCTs. Okay, so we look at these 4 studies from the MM1, Elo-RD, and S5, and also POLLUX. You see that actually RD is been used as a control in these 4 RCTs, and they give us different asset ratios. So this is another way that I look at all this data. So for these 4 RCT that actually use RD as a control arm. So first of all, we look at the median progression-free arising from the control arm that's RD arm. So first of all, you see that the median PFS from control arm of RD ranges from 50 months to 70 months. So I would say that given that there is still a lot of heterogeneity, okay, that the control arm differs to a comparable median PFS. Okay, with that, we can anchor the control arm and compare the hazard ratio in a graphical way. So first of all, this is the common MM1, the astonishing RD versus RD. And this is the carfilzomib RD versus control. And also, we have the Elo-RD RD versus RD. And now we have a Daratumumab RD versus RD. And these are the 4 studies here. I just want to add on the CASTOR study, that's Daratumumab VD versus VD. So despite in this study, despite the fact that in this study has a ratio of 0.3, meaning that 70% of the patient receiving Dara VD has got a survival benefit of a much lower risk of going into a progression with that. You can see that clinical feedback is underperforming. Okay, so the question is that the control is a pretty big. So therefore, just to illustrate to you that the interpretation of RCT data can be very tricky. Okay, so not only is the hazard ratio important, the exclusion criteria and the trial design also matters. So what about the management of advanced relapse? I believe there are a few issues. So the first one that I mentioned is actually the definition of advanced relapse. So it's not not necessarily a function of time. Okay. Moreover, in the case of advanced relapse, first of all, we have far fewer options than early relapse because we have exhausted the majority of the drugs in the regimen. Hence, this is a truly an unmet need. And then most of the data actually derived from phase 1-2 studies instead of phase 3 RCT. So you will bear this factors in mind. So this is our algorithm that we have summarized in review in the Chim in 2018. So this is actually when we encounter patients with advanced relapse, usually they are already refractory to multiple agents, including protein inhibitor and also lenalidomide. So in that case, you may consider the case of lenalidomide refractory patient with just home-based regimen. Okay, and a home-based you can combine with a PI or antibody. And then, or else you can consider using daratumumab monoclonal antibody-based regimen. You can use single agent power because it resuscitates activity, and then you can combine. But still, you can combine power with say or combination. Or we have newer drugs on the board. So Venetoclax is a BCL2 inhibitor, and the Cellular is an exporting-1 inhibitor, and of course, the era of chemotherapy we can't talk about as immunotherapeutic agents. So the Venetoclax story goes from that. I'm sure that you are familiar with the apoptosis pathway. So this is the intrinsic apoptosis mediated by the mitochondria. You understand that there's not a pathway that's extrinsic apoptosis mediated by the receptor pathway. Okay, then you must phosphase agent. This is phosphase 9. So the mitochondrial pathway is actually inhibited by the upregulation of BCL2. Okay, so that's why I'm using BCL2 inhibitor, which is BH3 mimetic, that will bind and inhibit the BCL2 that will degrade composite of tumor cells, including myeloma cells. So with that, there was a trial, okay, showing that the single agent activity of immunotherapy very refractory patients. So you see that these are patients with advanced relapse and way that. The median number of priors or treatments is 5. So actually, majority, 3/4 of them has had autologous stem cell transplant, and the majority of them are actually double refractory to both about 370 and also lenalidomide, and literally all of them are refractory to the last treatment. So with that, you see some response rate and also some CR as well. However, the majority of response are actually localized to patients who have 11-14 translocation, that is the replication cycle D1. So I cannot reconcile the mechanism in this case because I think D1 was responsible for cell cycle progression, but this B cell due to the inhibition of apoptosis, I cannot connect the two. But somehow this is a survey to identify patients who respond to Venetoclax. So with that, people try to ask the question, why does it only work in patients with 11-40 but not in other patients? So it's actually found to be due to upregulation of another anti-apoptotic protein beta MCL1. And therefore, we have conducted another study, so using combining Venetoclax with Velcade, bortezomib, in a way that Venetoclax will inhibit BCL2. Whereas bortezomib fluid knows that will inhibit MCL1, so together they will induce apoptosis. So again, you see this is the study in patients with relatively refractory disease, and with that regimen using a dose of 800 milligrams per day. Okay, so you see that we have high response rate, and some of them are quite deep in positive response of VGPR, and the median time to progression is around 10 months. And so what about the exporting-1 inhibitors? So exporting-1 inhibitor is actually a molecule that inhibits this protein molecule that transform immunotherapy or even also proteins into the smart process. And so they conduct this study in very refractory myeloma. The reason I say so is that actually in combination with local staff with Cellular, they actually do a study in patients who are partially refractory or even chemical refractory, meaning that the refractory to anything on the treatment myeloma apart from CAR-T. All right, so with that, you see that there is some response, okay, so although it's low, but bear in mind that this is already end of the road. So okay, basically these patients have nothing else, okay, they are very, very refractory, okay, so there is still some response. And interestingly, the interesting point is that it seems that patients with high result genetic fail better than patients with standard result genetic. So this is one of the interesting arising from that data. Although this is a small study, but it is still interesting to observe that. And then, of course, for immunotherapy, we have, first of all, apart from CAR-T that we are related to by in great detail. So we have this antibody drug conjugate. I'm sure that you're familiar with Venetoclax. That was a CD30 antibody drug conjugate that is used in Hodgkin's lymphoma or was in a past lymphoma. And so you see that basically this is antibody that we call as BCMA on myeloid cells, and then it's conjugated to a toxin. Okay, so MMAE is actually the toxin. So once it binds to the BCMA, it does not induce apoptosis, but it will get internalized. Okay, so you see that the antibody together with the toxin get internalized, and afterwards the toxin will be cleaved and then go to the cytoplasm and inhibit microtubule formation in the cell and lead to cytotoxicity of the myeloid cells. So this is actually a summary of the phase 2 data expansion cohort in ASH in 2017. So you see that in the cohort of heavily pretreated patients, the median lines of treatment is actually 5 in 60% of the cases. 90% of them are double refractory, and 30% of this cohort is even Daratumumab refractory. The overall response rate is very, very decent, 60%. And you see that it is a significant proportion of them even achieve a deep response in a way of VGPR and CR. So this is a very promising drug, and yet still look at the duration of response is still only. So apart from this deep response, the duration of response is only 8 months. So this is again a medical need. And then the next one to come along will be antiviral T-cell engagement. I'm sure that we include the Pfizer. Right? So basically, it's a specific way that it targets CD3 and the T cells, and also as an targets tumor antigen on the human cells. In this particular instance, is BCMA on the myeloid cells. So the whole point is that they will actually bring into proximity of a cytotoxic T lymphocyte to the myeloid plasma cell because they express the BCMA. So in due course, the cytotoxic T lymphocyte will discharge into spring against the into the adjacent tumor cell that is a plasma cell and legal cytotoxicity. And there are actually ongoing clinical trials in the early phase using a specific efficacy therapy against BCMA in myeloma. And also we have a CAR-T cell that's going to be related to opportunity in a minute, but just to alert you to the fact that why do we choose BCMA as a target for CAR-T cells? So this is the B ontology of B-cell differentiation, as you see that along the way, BCMA is only expression of BCMA is only restricted to plasma cells. So that's why it's a very, very stage-specific, stage-restricted expression of BCMA on plasma cells that lands a very good target for construction of CAR-T cells. Because of course, the CAR is a B-cell receptor, artificial B-cell receptor that recognizes BCMA. Of course, it has to be attached to a costimulatory molecule, and then a small domain, and the costimulatory molecule can be a CD28 or a 4-1BB. So with that, I want to summarize in a kind of what do we have for relapse or refractory myeloma. First of all, again, we have this MA at the top as a choosing proposal. We have a PI inhibitor, and all the fact that we trigger out mitochondrial apoptosis, and of course we have these different combinations. And then we have monoclonal antibody that targets CD38 also TAP7. And then we have a BCL2 inhibitor in Venetoclax, and we have exploring one inhibitor Chimeric. And then we have these ADCs that targets BCMA, and we have the five antibody that targets BCMA as well. And then we have the receptor that targets BCMA. However, having said that, there are so many niches, so many advances, myeloma remains a curable disease. So there are a few things that we need to do. So first of all, We feel lucky that we have a function scan available for myeloma as a FDG CT scan must be frequently for us because of this using some cases in lymphoma. So when we pick up the FDG condition in myeloma and this function scan, in a way that it will go away upon treatment, so it's useful. However, you know that up to 40% of the myeloma lesions are actually FDG non-avid. Okay, so therefore it will be absent, even if the patient has got this disease, that it will be absent on the FDG PET. So the question is there a better tracer for myeloma for PET imaging? The next question is about minimal residual disease. You understand when the patient presents with disease under the tip of the iceberg, there is still a lot of things under the water. So when the level is very low, it can only be detected by very sensitive method, including next generation sequencing and next generation flow cytometry. However, there is an additional level of complexity in a way that there is a significant, not inter-patient heterogeneity, it's intra-patient heterogeneity. So for example, I think the Arkansas research has shown that using CT biopsy from the different sites of myeloma lesions in the same patient, for example, in pelvis, in the spine, in the rib cage, and then pre-fusion. They do exome sequencing and find there is a significant difference genetic landscape in the same patient at different sites. Okay. And also, we have recently published the first, illustration of spatial epigenetic, it's not genetic, epigenetic heterogeneity in patients today. So therefore, single-site bone marrow disease monitoring is probably not sufficient. And because of that, so one way to tackle this spatial genetic heterogeneity, one way to of this, cell-free electron biopsy, so basically take a blood cell. So what you can see from the blood sample is that you may actually be able to detect as well, circulating tumor cells. You may detect tumor RNA because it is concentrated and protected from degradation in the exosome, or you may actually detect a tumor-derived DNA in the way of cell-free DNA. Okay, so in that regard, actually, because you are able to pick up actually all these free substances that are secreted from tumors from different sites of the same patient, so it's kind of a summation of tumor size. Okay, so that's why enormous advances in myeloma, I believe that a lot more needs to be done in order to achieve the success. So with that, I would like to finish. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
So, Professor Chim, thank you very much for this comprehensive talk that summarizes the meeting of 3 days on myeloma. And because we are a bit late, so we postpone the question to the coffee break, which we held in this hall.
Thank you.